This episode will be dedicated to the future of a group named Pixel Grip and a few predictions I have about it. If you want to hear more, please stick around. This is All Gas, No Trash. My name is Adam, and welcome back to the program, and welcome to a brand new episode. As you may have heard on the previous episode we made about Pixel Grip, discussing the remix they did of As Alive as You Need Me to Be from the Tron Ares soundtrack, or more specifically, the Tron Ares Divergence soundtrack, which features a lot of remixes and stuff. I have been stewing on this for a hot minute, and I know it came out, February 27th, I believe, was the time that it was released. But I only found out about it recently. And as a result of kind of looking into the song, I've come up with some predictions that I want to talk about just based off of this single, or rather this remix that Pixel Grip did, because I think there are big implications. So we're going to divide this episode into prediction 1 and then prediction 2. So let's go ahead and get into prediction 1. So I think this prediction is far more realistic, probably compared to the other one. But to start off, as a result of looking into this song, I didn't know much about it. I didn't know that it was the focus track of the Tron Ares soundtrack, meaning that it was probably the song that should have been heard by everybody at this point, that everybody should be checking out and listening to. And one of the things that I found out recently, not having checked out the Grammys, is that As Alive as You Need Me to Be was actually the best rock song of 2025. So I was at a loss of words seeing that, because I had no idea. I didn't know that songs from a soundtrack could be nominated for a Grammy. I thought there was a specific category for soundtracks in the Grammys, and that was the extent of it. There wasn't anything additional that you could win or anything like that. And perhaps I'm wrong. I think maybe Phil Collins won an award for Tarzan with Son of Man, or whatever song he made for that movie. I could be wrong about that, but nonetheless, I've kind of I guess I had the idea that soundtracks weren't really that important, that they would just have their own specific award, and the individual songs didn't have much to didn't get any more validation from the Recording Academy. But here I find out in this last year, or this current year of the Grammys, that once again Nine Inch Nails won for Best Rock Song with As Alive as You Need Me to Be. So based on that, I was taken back by that, because if in fact this song is the focus track of the soundtrack album, then Pixel Grip, for them to be chosen for this specific song, I think that says a lot about Pixel Grip, as if Trent Reznor or Nine Inch Nails were passing the torch to Pixel Grip themselves. And I do wonder if the catalyst moment was having Pixel Grip go against Travis Scott and his producer for having uncleared samples from songs on their second album, Arena, that he had the opportunity to meet Pixel Grip and just really like them and ask them, hey, would you guys mind hopping on and, doing a remix for the Tron Ares soundtrack? And who the fuck would say no to that at that point? But it's just the fact that Pixel Grip, amongst all the artists that exist in the music industry, that they were chosen when they were potentially on the down and out, never to return to music after or before their third album, as I come to find out based on their, I guess what you would call their press kit, right? About their third album. So it's an unlikely story that is quite triumphant on their part. But again, just talking about the connection between Pixel Grip and also Trent Reznor, it says a lot about them. Like I genuinely believe that there is more to this than I initially believed. So having said that, my theory at this moment is that Pixel Grip and Trent Reznor are potentially going to be nominated in 2027 for Best New Remix or Best Remix, because after listening to this song and comparing it to the original done by Nine Inch Nails, I firmly believe that this version is so much better. And not to say that Nine Inch Nails didn't do a great job with the song itself anyways, but more to say that a group like Pixel Grip just took the ball and ran with it, and it's it really elevates the song. I genuinely believe it. And having this track already win a Grammy for Best Rock Song, and if I believe that this song is as good as it is, then there is a chance that this song could be nominated for next year's Grammy Awards. And I think that potential category that they'll be in, if it's not in the soundtrack category, that maybe it'll be in the best remix. I think probably more realistic, it'd probably be in the best remix section. And that's more or less it. But the way that this song came out and having won an award and to have it be the focus track, I mean, like I said, it's something that is more important than I initially thought. That Trent Reznor just took this group that, sure, Pixel Grip has had their own success, but to really pass the baton for something as large as a film soundtrack, oh man, like that's fucking huge. So anyways, if I had to reiterate my point, it's simply to say that I think there's a real chance that Pixel Grip and Trent Reznor are going to win Best Remix in 2027 for As Alive As You Need Me to Be, the Pixel Grip remix, because it is outstanding. And I would love to see what other tracks are going to be grouped in with them if they eventually get nominated. I don't know if they'll win, but since Trent Reznor / Nine Inch Nails has already won, I think there's a real chance they could do it again. But anyways, let's go ahead and get to the next prediction. This one I'm not entirely sure about, but it doesn't seem preposterous, so let's go ahead and get to it. So this prediction might encompass a lot of things, but essentially what I think is going to happen is that Trent Reznor is going to serve as producer for Pixel Grip. And the reason that I believe that is that it would be a missed opportunity for Pixel Grip to work with somebody like Trent Reznor in this one instance, right? With the Tron Ares Divergence soundtrack. It just doesn't seem like something that would happen just as a one-off situation. So for him to be already working with them directly in some capacity, you have to imagine that there would be more that would follow afterwards, right? So a few examples that come to mind is an artist like Clairo. Clairo had been featured on Brain Story's second album called Sounds Good, where Leon Michaels served as producer. And if you know Leon Michaels, he's somebody that is the head of the Big Crown Records label. So usually he serves as producer for a lot of the artists featured on their roster. But one of the tracks in the second album of Brain Story's album is called Hang It On. It's called Hang It On. Clairo's on it. So this album released, I think, in 2024, and then sometime later, I think in that exact year, a few months later, Clairo had released Charm, which was an album that people were speculating on for a hot minute, not knowing who was the producer. But eventually, we come to find out that Leon Michaels would work on Clairo's, I think, fourth album. I'm not sure. I'm not familiar with Clairo's discography, but nonetheless, Leon Michaels was the producer for the album. So between Brain Story and also Clairo, you have Leon Michaels serving as producer, and if she was just in orbit of Leon Michaels for the longest time, recording around, or rather Leon Michaels working with Brain Story for their second album, and she was just around, maybe she got to talking to Leon Michaels and say, hey, I like the way you work. What do you think about us doing an album together? And, there you have it. You have Charm. Shortly afterwards, or excuse me, on a separate occasion, we have Jelly Haha, who previously was known as Angel Abaya. And in that instance where she was a solo artist that was part of, I think it was Earth Libraries Records, if I'm not mistaken, that particular imprint that she started off on when she was making music as Angel Abaya. So there was an artist that she worked with named Espacio Dios, and in addition to that, there was another person that was also part of this collaboration track between Espacio Dios and also Angel Baya. And this third person is named Sean Guerin, who is the probably one of the main figures of Deluxe the band. So Sean Guerin is a person of interest to this particular topic because Sean Guerin is the producer of Jelly Haha, the new incarnation of Angel Abaya. In addition to that, Sean Guerin is also part of Innovative Leisure, the record label, and Jelly Haha is also part of Innovative Leisure as one of their signed artists. So the point that I'm trying to get at with that specific song that came out in 2023 between Sean Guerin of Deluxe, Espacio Dios, and also Angel Abaya, there was the initial point of their relationship, and perhaps it goes much deeper than that, but nonetheless, the point I'm trying to make is that before Jelly Haha eventually signed to Innovative Leisure, she already had a working relationship with Sean Guerin. So this all ties back to Pixel Grip working in some capacity with Trent Reznor, having met him at a concert. I think he was specific. I think they were specifically his guests for their show. So, having said that, where they had the opportunity to meet and converse with him, I think there are implications that Trent Reznor cannot pass up the opportunity to work with a band like Pixel Grip, especially if he had them work on the focus track of the Tron Ares album. I genuinely believe that. And I think the way that this could potentially work, as I said before, is that I think Trent Reznor is going to want to work with them in some capacity and perhaps more directly as a producer for their fourth album in the future, or if it is another option where he is working indirectly, more of a passive role, he may introduce Pixel Grip to a bunch of producers and engineers to work with as it is. So I think I think one of those is true, or both of them could be potentially true. And as it is right now, Pixel Grip released Percepticide independently with no record label or anything like that. So maybe because of the fact that Nine Inch Nails, I think they have their own imprint that they release under the Knoll Corporation, but I think that is owned by Interscope. So if Trent Reznor is already talking to Pixel Grip, I think there's a strong possibility that Pixel Grip could be signed maybe to Interscope, because they probably want to be in orbit of Trent Reznor and, Nine Inch Nails. I think Nine Inch Nails is like indirectly involved with Interscope to some capacity. So those are like my two current theories about Pixel Grip at this moment. I don't know if they sound preposterous, but I don't know, man. The more I think about it, I just think there's a real chance that these two predictions could come true, between Pixel Grip having a Grammy nomination for a track that already won a Grammy for Best Rock Song for the Tron Ares soundtrack, and specifically as Alive as You Need Me to Be, and also having Trent Reznor become more of an active mentor with Pixel Grip, possibly serving as a producer to them on their fourth album, maybe leading them getting to signed to Interscope, maybe. I'm not entirely sure. But one of the things that I want to tie in at the very end of this episode is, so I go on their profile, I go on Pixel Grip's profile, and I find out that they're also going to be touring with Korn, which is, one of those established legendary bands from years past, right? So the booking agent of Pixel Grip at this moment, and I don't know if they got a different booking agent that afforded them this opportunity, but one of the things that I found out is that I'm sure he had his hand in getting Pixel Grip booked with Korn, but what I can see is that he had the Live Nation tag on his profile, probably implying that he works for Live Nation. So perhaps we could see Pixel Grip more. Well, we could see Pixel Grip at more Live Nation venues, and I'm sure there's a bevy of them across the United States. So I think the opportunity for them is there. I think the door of opportunity has been kicked down for them based on how things have been going as of late. And I just think the future of Pixel Grip is wide open at this point. It's the Wild West. Everything's on the table at this point. This band, I think, is capable of doing fantastic things, and I felt like that for the last, for as long as I've been following them. And you can check out our previous episodes. We did an album review for Percepticide. We also did a whole discussion on Pixel Grip where not only myself, but my partner or co-host Josh also predicted that Pixel Grip could achieve accolades similar to Trent Reznor. We said that on the podcast, and we specifically talked about Tron Ares, the soundtrack, and how we thought Pixel Grip can work on something like that. You can go ahead and check that out if you want. We have a bunch of episodes that we've done on Pixel Grip. We also have a few live segments that we've posted on our YouTube channel, a cover of Ace of Bases, All That She Wants, in addition to a whole set that they did at Catch One. So, you can have your fill of Pixel Grip on our YouTube channel if you want to check it out. But this is going to be the end of the episode. Thank you so much for tuning in. I'm sure you're exhausted at this point of me talking about Pixel Grip, but there's so much to talk about, man. I mean, a year from now, we could be talking about Pixel Grip at the fucking Grammys, and that's not a joke. So with that said, let's go ahead and end the episode. Thank you so much for tuning in, and I'll catch you all next time.